Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Black Mason speaks 9 languages in front of Millionaire CEO. What happens next? Incredible. New York. 6:42 a.m. The first rays of dawn touched the skyscrapers of Manhattan, casting golden reflections on the glass facades still damp from the night. The city, never truly asleep, stretches out with a dull roar. Horns echo in the distance, mingling with the hurried footsteps of delivery men, the street calls of street coffee vendors, and the heavy beat of construction sites waking up. At the foot of the tower Kingsley 1, an architectural gem under construction, the ground trembles beneath the ballet of cranes and machinery. Workers arrive in dribs and drabs, some still with their eyes half closed, others with the nervous energy of those who know that every minute is a battle against time. It is an imposing, strategic construction site, attracting the attention of the entire city. A symbol of vertical power, a promise of luxury and domination of the sky. Among the 50 or so men and women in fluorescent uniforms, only one seems unaffected by the city's cadence. He walks unhurriedly, a worn canvas bag over his shoulder, helmet in hand. His steps are assured, calm, almost meditative. His name is Malcolm Avery. In his late 40s, with a build forged by years of hard work, Malcolm is the kind of man you notice without really knowing why. It's not his appearance, slightly faded gray overalls, thick boots, black t-shirt, but his sovereign calm, this aura of quiet solidity that he exudes, which commands respect even before he speaks. And precisely, he speaks little. But when he does it, it is with a precision that forces silence. He does not seek to impress. He observe. The listen. And above all, he understands plans as well as human tensions. He understands gestures, silences, glances. On the construction site, they say he sees before others. No one really knows where he comes from. But those who have taken the time to ask him, rarely, have learned this. Malcolm was born in the Bronx, into a mixed family of intellectuals and exiles. His father, Ademola Avery, was a Nigerian diplomat serving at the United Nations. His mother, Elise, was an African-American literature professor with a passion for Haitian poetry and James Baldwin. Their apartment was a hub of languages, books, lively debates among exiled friends, the smell of African spices, and jazz vinyl. At 12 years old, Malcolm was already fluent English, Yoruba and Spanish. He learned French in secret, by reading The Little Princeton, the original version, offered by a Senegalese neighbor. At 13, he could translate his father's speeches at the UN, sitting in the back of conference rooms, noting every word, every inflection. He dreamed of becoming an interpreter, or a diplomat like his father. He dreamed of traveling, of conferences, of building bridges between cultures. But 14 years old, everything changed. Car accident, his father dies instantly. His mother, weakened by the loss, falls ill. Malcolm's dream crumbles. He leaves school and takes a series of odd jobs to support his mother and 2 younger sisters. He discovers the construction site out of necessity. Concrete replaces books. The hammer, pens. But even there, he observes. He learns gestures as he learned languages, through immersion, through patience, through respect for rhythm. He becomes a mason, not by choice, but by duty. Yet, he never stopped reading. In his bag, he always carries a dictionary, a German technical manual, or a collection of Japanese proverbs. During his breaks, he listens to Russian podcasts, reviews Portuguese grammar, or learns Chinese characters by the light of his headlamp. The world pushed him down. Both continued to rise. Internally, every language he learned was another stone in his own invisible cathedral. A man built of silence, of foreign words, of quiet dignity. And that morning, without anyone knowing it yet, the world was finally going to find out what Malcolm Avery was really worth. That morning, the construction site was tension. A kind of heavy electricity hung in the air, between the hum of the engines, the cries of coordination and the hammering of the tools. The foreman, Frank Delaney, a rough man with a shaved head and a deep voice, checked his watch every 2 minutes. A crucial delivery of steel beams was due at 7:30. It was already 10 minutes late. At 7:47, finally, a massive truck arrived, reversing slowly. The driver, a man in his 50s, wore an orange vest and a cap with the logo of a Czech football club. He climbed halfway out of his seat, examined the instructions on the sign, frowned, then climbed back into his cab. Frank approached, yelling. "Back it up. Right there. Left. No, your other left." But the driver didn't move. Apparently, he didn't understand anything. Worse, it seemed anguish, not knowing where to go or who to trust. The line of trucks behind him stretched for 2 blocks. The workers were starting to complain. Shouts, wild gestures, honking horns. "What the hell is this?" shouted one. "He's blocking the whole site. We're going to lose the morning because of this guy." Frank slapped the side of the truck with his palm, angrily. "Move the damn truck." But the driver, tense, closed his window. And then Malcolm moved. He gently placed his hammer on a pile of bricks, wiped his hands on an old rag, and approached the chaos with a leisurely slowness. No stress on his face. Just a kind-of benevolent gravity. He walked up to the cab, calmly raised his hands so as not to frighten the driver, then said in a calm, almost reassuring voice. "Don't worry. I'll help you. Just back up slowly, I'll show you the way. Don't be afraid. I will help you. Back away slowly, I'll guide you." Silence fell. The driver blinked. Once, twice. He looked at Malcolm as if he'd just heard his mother's voice. Slowly, he opened the door, got out of the truck, then nodded gratefully. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Malcolm replied, smiling. "You're welcome." He moved the cones, made precise hand gestures, and guided the truck smoothly into the side aisle. Less than 2 minutes, everything was unlocked. A respectful silence spread around him. Then, a worker whispered. "Wait. He speaks Czech now?" Another, with his mouth half open, replied. "I thought he was just from Harlem." Barely an hour later, the restored calm was broken by the arrival of an Italian engineer from Milan, John Ferrucci, contracted to validate the metal structures of the second level. He bursts in, plans in hand, his face red with anger. "But there's a problem. Level 2 isn't symmetrical. They don't understand the project." "No one understands." The foreman shrugs. Giovanni continues to speak quickly, gesticulating. Malcolm approaches, gently takes the plans, unfolds them on a construction table, and spreads them out. "Excuse me, but there's a mistake on level 2. The beams need to be moved 50 centimeters. Look here, column D4. Excuse me, but there is a mistake on the second level. The beams need to be moved 50 centimeters. Look here, column D4. Giovanni stops abruptly. He stares at him, bewildered, then nods slowly. He even starts to smile. Finally, someone who understands. Finally, someone who understands. The matter could have ended there, but the morning was only just beginning. 10h20. A German technician arrives, panicked by an electrical alarm in the ducts. Malcolm greets him in German, calmly shows him the wiring diagrams. 11:15 a.m. A passing Brazilian customer asks the supervisor a question. He gets confused. Malcolm approaches and talks to the man, Brazilian Portuguese, even jokes about a popular proverb. The customer laughs out loud. 11:50 a.m. A Chinese investor, Mr. Zhang, arrives for an unscheduled inspection. His translator is late. He's getting impatient. Malcolm steps forward, bows slightly, and greets him with fluent Mandarin. The man stops, amazed, then engages in conversation with pleasure. Every time, the same silence behind him. The workers, the supervisors, even the foreman, stop to watch. The construction site, little by little, becomes a spectator of a phenomenon. Malcolm Avery. Mason. Polyglot. Concrete diplomat. He never raises his voice. He doesn't boast. He just does it, elegantly. A young worker named Trevor, helmet askew and sandwich in hand, whispers. This guy, he's not just a mason. He's a hidden genius. And for the first time since the start of the project, the construction site is no longer buzzing with noise, but admiration. Kingsley 1 Tower, 57th floor. Morning light filters through the panoramic windows of the office Richard Kingsley, illuminating the architectural models meticulously lined up on the shelves. A dark wooden desk, without a single sheet of paper sticking out. 2 screens display the project's progress charts. Nothing escapes Kingsley. Not even a misplaced bolt. A stiff-built man, dressed in a perfectly tailored grey wool suit, Kingsley is the very image of self-made man modern. Cold. Efficient. He built an empire on the strength of his ambition. A former child of the middle class, he rejected the legacy of mediocrity. His steely blue gaze scans reports like a surgeon a wound. He has the reputation of a man feared, not liked. By his side, Chloe Grant, his personal assistant, brilliant and precise, tries to give him a verbal briefing. The morning report is mixed. The delivery of the beams has finally been released, but what? He interrupts abruptly. I think you should see for yourself. There is something unusual. He straightens up, closes his notebook, then says in an icy voice. Prepare the elevator. I'm going down. I want to understand why this construction site is dragging on, and who dares to slow it down. Ground floor. 9:58 a.m. When the elevator doors open, Kingsley steps onto the bare concrete, followed by Chloe, and freezes. The construction site, normally a space of shouting and dust, is eerily silent. Crowd of workers forms a semicircle, visibly captivated. In the center, a man in overalls, arms crossed, is exchanging a few words in Chinese with a man in a suit who has come for an inspection. The tone is calm. Dignified. No doubt, he masters the conversation. Kingsley turns to Frank Delaney, the foreman, who arrives in a hurry, visibly nervous. What's going on here? Why is everyone looking at this guy like he just walked on water? Frank hesitates, then breathes. It's Malcolm Avery, sir. A mason. But this morning, he defused 3 critical situations. A panicked Czech driver, an Italian structural error, a German technical breakdown. He spoke to each one, in their language. We checked, he speaks 9 languages. Kingsley narrows his eyes. He thinks it's a joke. A prank. Are you making fun of me? No, sir. Even the Chinese customer asked who it belonged to. Kingsley takes a few steps toward the circle. Silence falls around him, as if the air has frozen. Everyone steps aside to let him pass. And there, he sees it. Malcolm. Straight silhouette. Calm gaze. Dust on his boots, but dignity on his brow. He doesn't lower his eyes. He doesn't back down. He doesn't try to please. He waits. He exists. A simple mason, who doesn't seem to be one at all. Malcolm steps forward, reaching out with quiet assurance. Hello, Mr. Kingsley. We've never met, but I know your background well. Your book Vertical Resilience inspired me. Kingsley remains speechless. His hand, almost in spite of himself, squeezes Malcolm's. Vertical Resilience? Have you read it? 3 times. I even annotated it. On page 147, you quote Antoni Gaudí, but the quote is actually from his assistant Domènech Sugrains. A silence cutting even Chloe, used to everything, looks up, mouth half open. Kingsley stares at him. That look he reserves for big decisions, for million-dollar negotiations. That dissecting look. Looking for the flaw. He doesn't find one. Before him, there is neither pretension nor submission. There is a form of quiet intelligence, patiently built. A rock. Where did you learn all this? He finally asks, almost in a low voice. Malcolm answers bluntly. In books. In the streets. In mistakes. I learned so as not to collapse. Kingsley stands there, silent. Something shifts inside him, imperceptibly. A chink in the armor. He's not often surprised. Even less so. Impressed, but there, he feels that he is meeting a man out of frame. The next morning golden light floods the bay window at the top of the Kingsley Tower. Perched on the 57th floor, this meeting room feels more like a cockpit overlooking the city than an ordinary office. The surrounding skyscrapers seem almost humble in comparison. This is where Malcolm Avery, the quiet bricklayer who has become the talk of the company, is invited for the first time. He enters silently. No overalls that day. He swapped his overalls for a white, well-ironed shirt, but no tie. Dark trousers, worn but clean shoes. He didn't try to play a role or impress. He remained himself. Richard Kingsley waits for him, alone, hands behind his back, in front of the immense window. His gaze never leaves the horizon. He speaks without turning around. We can see far from here. But that doesn't mean we can see clearly. Malcolm remains standing. He doesn't know whether to sit down. He waits. Kingsley finally turns around. He watches him in silence for several seconds, as if trying to read what the rest of the world seems to have missed. Then, he finally breaks the silence, his voice deep and calm. You are exactly what this world forgets to look at. Malcolm blinks. You have a richness that they don't teach at Harvard. A rare form of intelligence, rooted in survival, effort, observation. He takes a few steps towards the table and places a thick file on it, bearing the logo Kingsley Group. I have a project. I want to build it with you. He opens the file. It's called Global Build. It's an international program. An initiative to train, integrate, and empower migrant workers. A school, a platform, a movement. It will teach languages, technical skills, safety culture, and dignity. Because no one should have to apologize for being competent in silence. He stares straight into his eyes. And I want you to be the academic director. The face of the program. Malcolm remains speechless. Moi? Yes, you. Not a bureaucrat. Not a consultant. Someone who knows what it's like to lift a beam with your bare hands in the sun. Someone who knows what it's like to translate the pain of a colleague who can't find the right words. Someone who hasn't forgotten the taste of concrete, even when reading poetry in Mandarin. Silence falls again. All that can be heard is the distant hum of the city. Malcolm looks down, searching for words. His fist gently closes around the hem of his shirt. Why me, Mr. Kingsley? I'm just a guy who didn't want to go down. Kingsley approaches. He gently places his hand on Malcolm's shoulder, a rare gesture for a man known for his coldness. Exactly. Because you remain standing. The world listens to those who stand on platforms, but it learns from those who hold the foundations. A long silence. Then Kingsley concluded, pointing at the city through the window. It is time for the world to listen to those it looks down on. Malcolm takes a deep breath. His gaze wanders for a moment into the clouds. A new mission. A new fight. But this time, not to survive. To build. 3 months later, in a sumptuous conference room in the heart of Geneva, the World Summit of Social Enterprises is in full swing. Delegations from all corners of the globe have gathered, heads of state, philanthropists, investors, renowned architects, and specialist journalists. On the main stage, spotlights sweep across a simple lectern adorned with the summit's logo. The audience holds its breath, waiting for the next speaker. Then the music stops, and a silhouette appears. It is Malcolm Avery. He strides confidently, wearing a perfectly ironed construction jacket, understated trousers, and a crisp white shirt. He embodies simplicity blended with understated elegance. A murmur runs through the room, the mason who became a megaphone. Malcolm stops at the lectern. He looks at the crowd, smiles softly. His voice rises, clear, calm. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. He begins his speech in impeccable English, articulated fluently, in the right tone. Then, without transition, he switches to French. Knowledge has no social class. It is there for those who love it. A murmur of approval rises. He continues in Arabic, then in Mandarin, in Spanish, in Portuguese, touching each person in their language, weaving a powerful bond. The heads of state exchange surprised glances, some registering, others closing their eyes, moved. Malcolm's words are simple, but heavy with meaning. Knowledge should not be a privilege. It is a right. A bridge. A light that illuminates the hands that build our cities, our dreams. The entire auditorium rises in a standing ovation. The applause rolls like a wave. Some stand, others discreetly wet their cheeks. Back on the construction sites of Kingsley Corporation across the world, a new tradition has been born. Next to each first stone laid, discreetly affixed, there is now a small metal plaque, sober, elegant, engraved in several languages. Dignity is multilingual. Genius can wear overalls. M.A. The workers sometimes look at it with a knowing smile. This inscription has become a symbol of respect and hope. Among the teams, a rumor is quietly circulating. Every evening, when the machines fall silent and the construction site lights go out, a man returns. A man who does not seek the light. A man who puts the tools in order, cleans the helmets, makes sure that every board, every nail is in its place. A silent guardian. A mason with a big heart. This man is Malcolm Avery. When asked why he does this, he simply replies. Humility, too, speaks all languages. And in these simple gestures, in this daily dedication, he teaches the world an essential truth: greatness is not measured by the size of skyscrapers, but by the hearts that build them.